Hey, Rowan here. I'm going to be doing more of my YouTube knitting videos. I'm going to start posting nail binding videos, different knitting videos, and different techniques and things like that. So today's video post for my YouTube channel is about knitting and crocheting and nail binding and many other of these wonderful fiber arts that we do. I do spin, and I drop spindle. I have a company called Kolsvetler. It's the name of a town in Iceland, and I do drop spindles. I do it mostly Icelandic wool. I clean it from raw wool and card it and spin it and blah blah blah. But there are a few things that I think that I like to really put out there for beginner knitters and beginner crocheters or whatever you're going to do. I would say, as somebody who's been working in fiber arts like this since probably age 5, and I'm 59 now. One of the biggest things I've learned is when you're learning to do, whether it's crocheting, knitting, whatever it is, it's extremely important to really learn about the stitches. And not only about how to make the stitches, but how to identify the stitches in your work. For instance, if you're doing crochet, you need to be able to look at your work and you need to be able to tell exactly what a double crochet looks like as opposed to a single, as opposed to a slip stitch. When you're looking at your work, you need to know what you're going to do or what you're doing wrong and what you're doing right. And this is going to translate into everything you do. And it's a very deep, it's a very processing, deep thing to learn. And I think people really pay attention to it. Again, being 50 years doing this, I try to think about what have I learned that helps me the most. And that's it. Knit stitches are very, you only really have 2 knit stitches, knit and purl. However, you do have yarn overs and knit purl, blah 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 blah. You need to know what they look like. And again, nail binding is not easy. It's not easy to be able to get your stitches and your tension right. It's very hard. Nail binding is done with 1 needle, 2 hands, and there's so many different stitches, but it's a trick. I suggest learning how to knit and crochet before you try nail binding, just because. But even then, I know what the difference between a mom and stitch is, and I know what a difference between an Oslo stitch is, and I know what a York stitch looks like. And I know when I create whatever I'm doing, whether it's a pair of mittens or socks, I can make sure those stitches look like they're supposed to look. Learning to look at your stitches, whether it's crocheting, knitting, and being able to count. Now, some people will go and they will just start making something like I'm going to wing it. And I've done that so many times, and I've regretted it every time. Especially clothing, like socks. I do a lot of gloves, sweaters, and things like that. Counting is so important, especially in, like, if you're doing a pullover sweater and you're doing the yoke. I've done Icelandic sweaters with the beautiful colored yoke patterns. You need to pay attention to what you're doing, and you need to learn how to count. Bite the bullet, get stitch markers, just do it. Also, so if you're learning how to count, because you know how to count, because you know what your stitches are supposed to look like, and you know how to count the stitches correctly, you will also learn that many patterns that are out there, and I'm not saying this to down content creators that make patterns, because God love them. I really don't ever post any patterns. I am going to put a link below of my favorite content creator that's a knitting teacher, and I love the way she teaches it. I'm going to try to keep promoting these other content creators that I find. I'll put nail bind people too and things like that. But I can look at a pattern, for instance, sweaters, the gusset sleeve sweaters. I love them. I'm not a fan of the square tunic sweater with the round, knitting in the round sleeve. I like the sleeves to be fitted and the diamond shaped gussets going from the top of the shoulder to the armpit. And I was really having a hard time learning how to do this because my friends kept sending these videos after videos after videos, and I'm like, son of a bitch. And they were all so complicated and convoluted, and everybody's doing it a different way. And I'm getting to a point. So because I've been doing this for 50 years, I just backed up to my knowledge of how stitches look, how knit stitches look, how they work, how do gussets work. If you've ever made a pair of gloves, the thumb gusset, once you learn how to do it, it's a life changer. Basically, these sleeve gussets on the sweaters are just upside down thumb gussets. use your knowledge and build your knowledge of the basics, because it's going to really help you later on to start figuring out these very difficult patterns. And when you go online and you're looking online, you're going to find a lot of teachers that are great, but some of them are so fast they don't really actually teach you how to physically do the motion, and they don't repeat the motion. And when you're doing color work, picking up your floaters, I watch about 8 million different videos, and finally I thought, how's a common sense way to do this that's going to be able to pick up my floaters without driving me crazy, that I don't have to drop what I'm doing every 15th second and switch things around. And I will be doing a video on a really neat way to pick up floaters. But my advice is, no matter what you're doing, whether it's knitting, crocheting, nail binding, learn the basics and learn them well. And don't be afraid to make swatches. I want to make a sweater for my granddaughter now, and I've got like some really cool little design, and I am going to make it with gusset sleeves, a gusset sleeve pattern. But I'm going to like get crappy yarn, and I'm going to make a template sweater, and I'm going to write down my stitch counts. Don't be afraid of a notebook and write things down. Again, we are constructing things. We're not just winging it. And if you're a beginner knitter or a beginner crocheter and you think it's a good idea to knit it, I'm sorry, I have pneumonia, to wing it, I'm telling you, as an experienced fiber arts worker, you are setting yourself up for a lot of disappointment. I see some of these great creators making some of this crochet stuff that's, oh my God, gorgeous. Thumbs up. But I know these girls really know what they're doing. I know these girls pay attention. I know these girls know how to count their stitches, because you don't get intricate patchwork work like that without really paying attention to what the hell you're doing. So if you're just beginning, take your time, learn your basics, remember your basics, and be able to look at your pattern and be able to identify your stitches just by looking at them. Makes it easier to count them, and learn about your yarns. That's another thing I find that's a big mistake for a lot of beginner knitters and what have you. There's just some yarns that are just better than others for certain things. I tend to be, for crochet, I tend to be a cotton girl. I like making a lot of utility stuff. I like making hot cotton halter tops out of crocheting because it's just so comfortable. Also, I do a lot of like laundry baskets and things like that, and baskets out of crochet. Certain stuff you're not going to use for a basket. I use a lot of Icelandic wool for sweaters, but even though it's really pretty, I'm not going to make a sweater out of Icelandic wool for somebody who lives in, let's say, Kentucky. It's way too warm. Also, there are certain types of yarns that you should use when you're better at it, and you should not use when you're not better at it. Because some of this stuff, when I make Icelandic wool and I make my own handmade Icelandic yarn, I'm going to say I charge about $100 for 150 yards. Because I washed it, I combed it, I spun it. It's a lot of work. So when you're beginning, that's great. Just buy shit stuff. Go and buy Red Heart. Not saying Red Heart's shit, but it's really good for beginners. And it is really, I'll put the link below too. There's a place I buy all my yarn from, especially bulk. It's called Yarn Paradise. I believe they're in Turkey. And they do ice yarns, and I've never gotten a bad product from them. And the prices are always very reasonable. And especially if I'm going to do something big like a blanket or anything in bulk, I buy from them. Because again, the product's always great. The shipping and handling is reasonable. But do some time, do some research. Go to a craft store, talk to people that have been doing it for a while. Because you want to save time and money. And you also want to save frustration. When you're learning how to do something like this, it takes a long time. And the last thing you want to do is fail and fail and fail. I find when I teach people, I try to teach them slowly. And I'm like, listen, learn the correct way. Take your time. Be patient, because you're going to quit if you keep failing. And you're going to get discouraged and you're not going to want to do it. I'm very, 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 very thankful to my Grandma Canterbury, who pretty much taught me, and my girlfriend Juliana, these people who spent time teaching me. And as a teacher, if you're a beginner, take your time, patience, ask a lot of questions, because you will not regret it. I promise. Love you.